Well, I will say a couple things. The Speaker of the House basically has announced the Senate bill is dead on arrival. The reason the Senate bill is dead on arrival are two things. One, we don't actually in the House like 2,000-page bills. And we believe that the bigger the sausage, the nastier it gets. And so we're not against addressing all of the issues that the Senate bill attempts to tackle. We just want to take it in more manageable bites. And second, the Senate bill has all kinds of revenue measures in it. And the Constitution of our country says all revenue measures have to start in the House. And the House parliamentarian actually ruled the Senate bill unconstitutional. So even if we, and the press hasn't really covered this for some reason. Every time the Senate asks, the press asks me, why don't you just take the Senate bill? Well, first of all, it's illegal. And they kind of look at the cross-side. Well, the parliamentarian has ruled, even if the House wanted to take the Senate bill as is, we can't, because we can't take revenue measures and start it in the Senate and pass them in the House. But let me tell you a couple other things. We have a screwed up immigration system. Okay? If our immigration system worked, we wouldn't have 12 million people here illegally. And our immigration system is more complex than simply securing the border. Why? Well, the 12 million people who got here illegally didn't get here illegally coming through a porous border. 40% of the 12 million, 5 million of them, came here legally. Some drove, many flew, some came by train and boat. They came here legally on guest worker programs. They came here on guest visa programs. And they overstayed their visa and are now here illegally. So even if our border was a Fort Knox locked up place and nobody got in this country illegally, we'd still have 5 million people here illegally because they came in on a guest worker program that expired and they just hung out. They liked it, they stayed, but we didn't know where they went. So we got to do a lot of things if we want to cut down on illegal immigration and make for a more efficient immigration system. We need a robust border security bill. The House of Representatives is going to tackle immigration reform step by step, not in one big comprehensive omnibus chunk of sausage. So the House has put forward a robust border security bill. It passed the Homeland Security Committee last month with nearly every Democrat and Republican voting for the bill. It's a good bill. That bill will probably be on the floor in September when we go back. That bill can pass by itself. Then we need a robust guest worker program. Why? Because when people come to this country and they work here for a year or for 2 years on a guest visa, we need to make sure that when their visa expires, they leave the country. And we need to make sure that the employer is penalized if they continue to employ people once their visa is expired. Well, that requires something better than E-Verify, which is our half-hearted attempt right now. We got to be able to know whether or not, in fact, the person who's applying isn't exactly who they say they are. We also need an expanded guest worker program. Whether it's ag industry folks that need guest workers, or whether it's high-tech employers that need guest workers. Our guest workers in the high-tech, for example, H-1Bs, they run out in February of every year. So when I'm down in Springfield talking to Hanson Engineering, which is a large international engineering firm, and they tell me, Congressman, we have offices in London, we have offices in Asia, and we might get a project in August, and we need to bring in one of our foreign engineers to work on it, and we can't get a visa until the next year, and we got to get it in a January, February window. I mean, that's not how a 21st century, first world country like us should operate. There ought to be a way they legally can bring in a worker, they pay taxes, we know who they are, and we can enforce when they leave and know whether they left or not. The 21st century, every one of our competitors, the United Kingdom, Canada, they have very, very sophisticated guest worker programs where people come in, pay their taxes, they're documented, and they leave on a seasonal basis. So we favor a step-by-step approach that deals with these different issues, but we can't stick our head in the sand and say we don't want to do anything. Because if we don't do anything, people will keep coming here illegally, people will keep working, not paying taxes. Employers will still keep screaming because they can't get the workers that they need. So we've got to fix the problem. I will tell you, as a Republican member of Congress, what I tell my Republican colleagues is, look, there is going to be no perfect bill, trust me. There's no such thing as a perfect bill. We need to try and get a good bill, and we believe in fixing broken government. So we ought to lean in on this and try and fix broken government and try and make it better than it is. Trust me, it's going to be difficult. It's difficult even if you try to solve it just in this room. Now try and involve 49 other states. Try and involve people that are on the opposite political aisle as you. Remember, George W. Bush was probably one of the most pro-immigration reform presidents we've had in the last decade. He had a Republican House and Senate, and they still couldn't agree on what to do. So, I just remind folks that, you know, even if your husband and wife sat down to try to work this out, I'm not sure. So it is going to be difficult, but I want to be a part of moving the ball down the court because I think the current status quo is not acceptable.